Hey everyone, I'm Pooja and I welcome you to my YouTube channel. I'm a watercolor artist and the author of the book Modern Watercolor Workshop. Today's video is a bonus video because I call this a prequel before painting the 21 patterns from my book. As you dive into the book, this mini 4-pattern painting exercise will help you to get into the mood of painting more in-depth patterns from my book. I invite you to join along today and paint with me as I take you through my process in a step-by-step guided way. Let's get started. The best way to get into the mindset for painting productively is to have a calm mind, clean space, and an unhurried approach, which means to paint when you have the time to slow down. I usually light candles and listen to subtle music every time I sit down to paint. Let's look at the supplies that we will be using for painting today's patterns. I'm going to use Arches cold pressed watercolor paper block. The paper is 100% cotton and has a weight of 300 GSM or 140 pounds. This block measures 7 by 10 inches and is a perfect size to paint small to medium sized patterns. You can even size up to 8 by 10 or 10 by 14 inches if you want to paint larger patterns that you may intend to frame. You can learn more about paper and sizing in my book. We are going to paint 4 patterns today, so I have divided the sheet into 4 parts using a masking tape. You can mark the centers of the sides with a pencil and then cover them using a thin masking tape. We are going to need 2 cups of clean water to rinse cool and warm colors. Please ensure to change the water after every pattern. You can read more about how rinsing water affects your work on page 22 in the book. Next, we are going to need small mixing palettes, which could be ceramic or plastic. These are some of the palettes that I have collected over a period of time. Next, I am going to use my Mary Blue professional watercolors today, which I have also used for painting all the 21 projects in the book. I have listed all the color names on page number 43 of the book. Let's move on to the brushes. I use Princeton brand of brushes, and for each project in the book, I have listed down what brush kind and size I am using. For today's projects, we will use about 3 different brushes, a size 3 round brush, a half-inch flat brush, and a round 4 brush. In the book, I'm also teaching you how to hold and use other types of brushes such as filbert, oval, quill, and others. We will use a clean kitchen towel to dry brushes and take off the excess water and paint from the tip of the brush. Now let's begin with our first pattern. I'm going to use Prussian blue to paint the entire pattern. Using any big size round brush, mix some paint onto your palette. We want a good runny consistency but not too watery. Mix enough paint which will last through the pattern, but you can always remix if you need more. Then I'm switching to a size 3 round brush which has got a beautiful pointed tip. Load the moist brush with paint and start painting teardrop shapes starting from the top left corner of the paper. Teardrop or water drop shape has a point on one end and is circular on the other end. Using the tip of the brush, we will first outline the shape and then fill it in softly. This is one of the simplest shapes that will teach you how to control the brush and draw curves using the tip. If you want, you can also practice a few of them on a rough sheet of paper. You can also practice painting some straight lines, curved lines, circles, and so on. Make mindless yet controlled strokes to help you get started. In the book, there is a separate practice session for every project in which we paint together in steps before we begin the final project piece. But here, due to time constraint, I'm going to explain as I paint the pattern. Other than project-related practice sections, we also have a whole chapter in the beginning of the book that is devoted to practicing watercolor techniques together that will give you a good foundation before you dive into painting patterns. Okay, so let's start painting these teardrop shapes and fill up the first section of the page with this pattern. As you start painting these shapes, keep the following things in mind. Number 1. Remember to space out the shapes so the white gap will add a beautiful contrast in the end. Number 2. Try to use varying shades of Prussian blue. Paint a few dark ones and a few light ones by adding water to the paint. Number 3. Paint teardrop shapes in different directions to have a nice variation and movement in the pattern. Number 4. As you go near the edge of the paper, carefully cover the space by painting only part of the teardrop shapes. And that's it. We finished this very simple pattern, which is a good starting point for you to get into the groove of painting patterns. Let's move on to the next beginner-friendly pattern, which involves painting lines. To paint this pattern, I'm going to use a thin masking tape and divide the painting area into equally spaced columns. I'm going to roughly eyeball the width and start making columns one by one. This step is totally optional, and you can even draw pencil lines to make columns and then leave white gap while painting the pattern. So now my prep work is done and I have equidistantly taped lines. I'm going to use two colors for this pattern, primary red magenta and Indian yellow. Let's mix both of these paints onto our palettes and have them ready to paint. I'm going to use the same size 3 round brush to paint this pattern. Keep your paper at a comfortable angle that allows you to paint slanting or diagonal lines. Load your brush with the paint and start drawing slanting lines in the first column very close to each other. As you begin painting, keep your hand steady and well rested on the paper. Using the tip of the brush, start painting the lines slowly. Go all the way till you reach the end of the column. Feel free to load your brush with paint in between. For the second column, paint lines using the same pinkish red color, but in a direction that forms a V shape with the set of lines in the first column. Remember to adjust your angle by rotating your paper. Repeat the exact same steps for column 3 and 4, but using Indian yellow this time. As you paint these lines, focus on the process and get involved completely to see if you feel relaxed. Try to let go of all the stress and feel the joy of painting one line at a time. This unhurried approach is what forms the foundation of this book, and I urge you to paint at your own pace, allowing yourself to sink into the methods and techniques as you paint every project in the book. We will continue to paint the columns using alternate colors and fill up rest of the space to complete the pattern. Once the pattern dries completely, slowly peel the tape off to reveal the pattern. It looks nice and delicate. We will paint the third pattern now, and for that we will divide the space into equally spaced rows this time using masking tape. Start putting the tape to make horizontal rows. I'm spacing the tape about an inch apart. Let's paint the pattern using two colors, a fresh turquoise blue color and a bright shade of green. I'll be using Cupric Green Light. Mix the two colors on your palette and keep them ready. I'm going to use two flat brushes. Both are 1/2 inch width. One for the blue color and one for green color. You can absolutely paint the pattern using just one flat brush. You will need to rinse your brush in between colors and it is fine to do so. Load your flat brush with the blue color. Start painting stripes starting from the top row left corner. Place the flat brush and pull it down slowly to draw a stripe as thick as the width of the brush. We will also draw some stripes using the thin side of the brush, which will give you thinner stripes. Draw a couple of blue stripes and then switch to green stripes. Repeat the process and keep the stripes mixed. We want the stripes arranged differently in every row. So pick the colors accordingly and do a mix of thin and thick stripes that are closely spaced out. Continue the process till you reach the end of last row. Wait for everything to dry and then slowly peel the tapes off and reveal the pattern. I love the translucent green and blue strokes that look so refreshing. Reminds me of deep blue and green ocean waters. Let's proceed to paint the last pattern in this bonus video. We will use a slightly bigger size 4 round brush to paint this pattern. We will paint this pattern in a monochrome color scheme. I'll be using Payne's Grey to paint this pattern. In the book, you will find a separate chapter on color theory in which we are talking about various color schemes and how you can choose color palettes to make fresh and vibrant looking pieces of artwork. For this pattern, we will paint a layered fish scale pattern and draw semicircles that are connected to each other across equally spaced imaginary columns. Something like this. Load your brush with color and start painting medium-sized inverted semicircles starting from the top left corner of the painting area. Go slow and easy, eyeballing the spacing and roughly painting the semicircles of same size and height. This is a slightly advanced pattern. that we are painting without any pencil work or masking tape. We are challenging ourselves to have control on the brush and learn to draw steady lines and curves. Every project in the book has a difficulty level marked as 1, 2 and 3 and ensures that you progress in your skill levels as you reach the end of the book. As you paint this pattern from top to bottom, add inner layers of smaller semicircles as you go along. Proceeding slowly and steadily will certainly help you in achieving an even pattern that is perfect yet has a hand-drawn imperfect element to it. Once you are done painting all the 4 patterns, remove the main tapes and your bonus patterns are now ready. You can definitely try these out on bigger paper and create impactful pieces using different color schemes and frame them to decorate your walls or give them to your loved ones. Thank you so much for watching this video and pre-ordering my book. It means the world to me. Once you receive the copy, do leave a review on Amazon or any other website from where you purchased the book. This will help my book reach many other budding artists. Thank you again and happy painting.